There are so many different ways you can cast on your knitting project. Today, I'm going to show you how to do a really easy tubular cast on. Hi, welcome to CHeri Knits. I love knitting and I want you to love it too. Let's check out this technique together. Let's take a look at how to do a tubular cast on. I think this is the easiest tubular cast on I've ever done, and I really like it, especially when I'm doing flat pieces. Maybe I'm making a sweater and I'm making pieces that are separate to seam together later. The bottom of the sweater, the bottoms of the cuffs, this is a really good way to do that. But there's lots of different uses for it. So tubular cast on, what I want to do is cast on about half the number of stitches that I want to end up with. And you just need to keep in mind that you will always you'll be adding stitches and you'll be adding one less than what you cast on. So I put 12 stitches on here, knowing that once I'm done with the tubular cast on, I'll add 11 stitches. If you had 30 stitches cast on, you would add 29. So think about that when you're casting on, so you know how many to pick up. And when you're done with your tubular cast on, goes into a knit one, purl one pattern. You'll always have a knit at the beginning and the end. So you'll end up with an odd number. Okay, so let's get started here. I cast on using a waste yarn. You want to make sure that you use something that really contrasts your working yarn. And I tend to go with a lighter color. Well, unless I'm knitting with a light color, then I'd want to go with a dark color. But you just want to make sure that you're using something that contrasts with your working yarn so that you can see the stitches you're going to pick up. And I cast on here. I just worked a few rows for the waste yarn. That's going to be cut away, so you don't need to do very much, just 3, maybe 4 rows at the most. And then I created 4 rows of the working yarn. And one thing to keep in mind is that you want to finish your waste yarn after working a knit row. So the first row of your working yarn is going to be a purl, so that you end up, I purled, knit, did a purl, and then knit, and so I'm ready to turn it and look at the purl side. And that goes if you add 6 rows for a smaller yarn. So 4 rows works pretty well for chunky or worsted weight. And then if you're working with a sock yarn or maybe DK, you can add a couple more rows to that and maybe do 6 rows. But you want to end by working a knit row, and then you'll turn it around and we will do this tubular cast on. All right, so we're going to start by purling the first stitch. Purling the first stitch on the wrong side makes a knit stitch on the right side. And then what I'm going to do is look down here, and you can see these nice purl bumps on the back of the stitch. So you've got this top one is the waste yarn, and the bottom is the working yarn. And so I want to take the tip of the left needle and come down and scoop up this first stitch. It looks like a smile. The waste yarn is a frown. The working yarn is a smile, and that's what we want, is that smile. You want to pick it up with the tip of the left needle, just scoop it up from the top to the bottom, and then take your working yarn to the back of the right needle and knit that stitch through the back loop. Then you'll bring the yarn to the front, purl the next stitch, take the yarn to the back, so you're ready now to take the next smile with the working yarn, scoop it up with the left needle from top to bottom, and then knit it through the back loop. Yarn to the front and purl the next stitch on the needle, take the yarn to the back, scoop up that next smile, and then knit it through the back loop. And continue doing that all the way across. And you'll end by purling the last stitch on the needle. All right, so we're getting to the end here. Purl the stitch on the needle and then scoop up that final smile, that final other color, knit it through the back, and then you'll purl that last stitch on the needle. And when you turn to take a look at it, you can see it has this nice rounded edge down here, and you have a knit, a purl, a knit, a purl, knit, purl. Starting with a knit, ending with a knit. All right, so how do you get rid of this, this other color that you don't want? So you're going to turn your work around and grab some really sharp scissors, and you want to carefully cut away the waste yarn in a few places. So make sure that when you cut, you pull your stitches down so you're not accidentally cutting the working yarn. You just want to cut away the waste yarn. And as you cut it, you can see that you can just pull it right out. So some really nice, sharp, pointy scissors will do the trick for you. And you would just cut it all away. And then you have this nice pretty edge that looks good on so many different things. Tubular cast on looks good for a top-down sock, for the bottom of a hat, and like I said before, for the hem of sweaters and sleeves. I hope you give this a try, give this technique a try. Let me know what you think. You can do this. You are the boss of your knitting. Have a great day. Wasn't that totally tubular? Leave a comment below if you went to high school in the 80s like I did. And if you need a new knitting project, you want some new yarn, click the link below for Twisted Yarn Shop. They're my favorite yarn shop. Great yarns, knitting, crochet supplies.
Tubular.
Tubular.